Christmas tree is up 2 weeks too early. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Agreed. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode 242 of the O The Anthem podcast, broadcasting to you from the hashtag OTA LA studio, high above the 110 freeway in beautiful downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for liking on Facebook and following on Instagram and doing all the things you do, because everything you do is appreciated by us tremendously.
Yep, and of course you can find more O The Anthem at O The Anthem on Twitter and Instagram. You're watching right now at facebook.com/O The Anthem. If you're not live, or if you are live with us, make sure you join us in the chat where you can discuss all sorts of the topics. Just remember we're on a little bit of a delay. And if you're listening during the week, you can always go back and see the live video at youtube.com/O The Anthem and see all of the exciting adventures that we get into and all the visual gags. So, yeah, we're going to keep it tight. Keep it tight this week. I got things to do. Gotta go pick up food.
Real quick. Just because I brought up the Christmas tree.
Yes.
I don't know if any of the listeners at home know, but when you got your Christmas tree as a kid?
Well, we didn't get it. We would have a fake tree. So
okay.
Getting it down out of the attic.
Yeah. When would it be up and ready for presentation?
23rd.
23rd of December?
December 23rd. Now, ironic, because growing up, it was always December 23rd. When you had kids in the house. Now my parents have no kids in the house. Bet you the tree's up already. Just guaranteed. Of course, they're also putting up like a little 3-foot tree that goes on top of a table and not a 7-foot tree.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's a whole other pain in the ass. Also, I was probably a bit of a bitch ass kid, and I just feel like I'd just be like, Mom, I don't feel like the ornaments are supposed to go there. I think you're supposed to. I would not want to deal with me either. So.
My family was probably somewhere around that 20 to 23rd range as well, just because we would happen to look at the calendar and just be like, oh shit, Christmas is next.
Yeah. Here's the difference between our two families, though. That tree would be down by the 31st. When would the Baker tree come down?
Oh, I don't know. When's Arbor Day?
March?
Yeah, so,
No, April.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. It's up for a while. Just Arbor Day rolls around, you're like, hey, the tree's still up. We should.
If you wait until all the pine cones fall off of it, and then you just kick it into the backyard like 300 style, then it just all returns to earth as it had before, you know?
Yeah, it's nice.
You just swipe it. We had it in front of we had like the French doors.
Right. Just open
so you
doors.
can just open the French doors, just kick it out into the backyard.
Send it back to nature as God intended.
Sweep all. Well, make it be an example for the rest of the trees. You better shape up.
We're gonna chop you down, leave you inside for 3 months.
This is what we do if you don't behave.
Ornaments at all? Did you drop kick it with the ornaments and everything?
Nah, I mean eventually we take the ornaments off. The problem is that a couple times we were so late in the process of getting the tree that we would do themed trees. They would just make it easier. So we had a homeless tree once.
Okay.
Where we had random hubcaps on the tree and a sign that was just we'll be merry for food or something like that.
Okay.
And there was a Baltimore tree where we put an Orioles cap on it and various ravens and Oriole things around the tree and stuff.
So not real ornaments. You decorated the tree.
Yeah, I mean the ornaments were if we got there at least 3 days ahead of Christmas. If it was Christmas Eve when we're putting our tree up, then we're just gonna do whatever the fuck whatever makes it look like there's things on the tree.
Do you think there are trees up in Maryland right now?
Oh yeah, people have their trees.
I mean, for your family.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
I mean, because my family has changed for whatever reason. The tree, again, the little 2.5-foot, 3-foot tree is up. Also, I don't think my mom takes the decorations off of it. I'm pretty sure it just goes up in the attic. So
has it completely?
It's just sitting up in the attic, ready to go. And then she's like, "Denzel, get the tree down." And he goes up and carefully brings down the completed tree. 10 years into this, there'll be broken ornaments. They'll finally have to get new ornaments to put on it. But that's probably part of it too. But,
all right. Well,
but by the way, we don't have a policy. Rob has a policy in this house, which is this thing that's in every house I have. Feel free to decorate all you want for Christmas. However, the tree nor the decoration shall go up before December 1st. I don't care that Thanksgiving is on the 22nd, the earliest day it could possibly go up. If I see decorations up before the 1st, they're going on the freeway.
Yeah.
And I don't care if I don't live next to the freeway anymore. I will take them to the freeway and throw them on the freeway just for shits and giggles of it. But Rachel controlled herself.
Yeah.
No decorating was done until December.
There was light preparation for decorating.
I started to see the encroachment. The tree came out, and I was like, don't make me throw that on the freeway.
It's just going to sit here until the 1st.
Right. Okay. You know the rules.
Whatever
Whatever
you say. I think she was worried that they would be doing the balcony cleaning during the 1st. Like,
yes.
So if she pulled it out on the 1st, it would just be like, oh, you can't walk on here yet. It's
oh my God.
It's like, you mean I have to wait till the 2nd to put the tree up now?
But it's very festive in here, and I hate it. So, I'm sure I'll get sick of this before the end of the Christmas season and just lock myself away in my room and never talk to anybody.
And bah humbug his way all the way until the new year.
Yeah. So I figured out what it is, though. So people at work said, well, if you really are the Grinch, then that must mean that you come around by the time Christmas gets here. And I said, no. I realized, and you may get this reference. Our listeners may not get this. Do you remember The Night Santa Went Crazy by Weird Al?
Yeah, of course I do.
I am a mixture of the Grinch right up until that heart starts to swell, and then I'm The Night Santa Went Crazy, and I'm barbecuing Blitzen, and
tastes just like chicken.
Yeah, turning Rudolph into pudding or whatever he says. There's blood and guts everywhere.
Reindeer in the sausage.
Yes, turning Rudolph into reindeer sausage. That's me. That is who I am.
The
once Christmas gets
National
here.
Guard and the FBI.
I listen to it on repeat. Because first of all, there was a bunch of, again, 20-somethings at my work who had no idea what that was. And I was like, oh, well, we're going to listen to this. Here we go.
Again, remember, I did that with somebody recently, too, where I was just like, you never heard of Weird Al Yankovic? And then I played it and then had to, look at that, explain them in, a way that, how... You don't expect that things would change so much in your own lifetime that you would have to explain why the kitschy fun of Weird Al was Weird Al. Just like if I was to play Blink-182 for someone now, they'd just be like, so this was good? Or I'm like, no, it wasn't ever good. It was just enjoyable. It was a different.
We knew it was bad.
It's like Fast and the Furious movies.
Yes.
We know it's bad for us, but we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So
I will say, imagine my dad, born in 1937, where...
No.
Monoplanes probably were around. And in his lifetime, he's gone from biplanes being the first plane he saw was a bomber, a military bomber that didn't crash land, but emergency landed in a field. And the entire town ran out to look at it. And like, how does that thing get up in the air? Oh, these flying machines. And then in his lifetime, he has seen, I don't know, Neil Armstrong walk on the fucking moon when he was in his 30s and 32 years old. And then from there, commercial air travel just becoming a regular thing.
Wouldn't it be funny if, right at the end, you get nominated for the Oscars or something like that, and you're just like, I'm sending out a private jet for you, Dad. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're going to fly in comfort out to L.A.
Yeah.
And then he that's his last flight, goes from biplanes to private jets.
Yeah. It's... quite a life.
I mean, he'd have to live for another 40 years for that to happen before you finally get nominated.
Virgin Galactic.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
So he gets to go into space and come back down. The first plane you saw was a bomber, and you couldn't believe it actually flew. And then you take a flight on Virgin Galactic.
Now go to space, bitch.
Yeah. Enjoy that one moment of oh, this is cool. This is cool. All right. Anyway, so Christmas is horrible, and I hate it. We have a real tree at work. I'm allergic to evergreens. It's made work super fun. And if we never talk about Christmas again, I'll be happy. So,
do you have to have a real tree to cover up the smell of Post Malone when he comes by?
Post Malone doesn't come by, although I did enjoy today a post I saw that said Frederick Engels and Post Malone apparently are twins, and I never noticed that before, and they are. Frederick Engels, you don't know who that is, but he co-wrote Communist Manifesto.
No, okay.
But nonetheless, Post Malone doesn't come by. But no, they insisted on having a real tree, even though I pleaded that maybe some people would be allergic to it, and then
to mess with you.
No, they didn't know. I just said, people have weird allergies, and we don't allow cats. We're a dog-friendly office, but not a lot of people I know who are allergic to dogs, and people who can take a pill and generally be fine. But there are a lot of people who are allergic to certain plants, and the idea of bringing a huge plant inside might be bad, knowing full well I'm allergic and I just didn't want to. Don't do it for me. Weird flex. And they got the real tree anyway. So now I'm just miserable all day. Already miserable, but also miserable because of the evergreen tree. So Christmas kids suck it.
I turned for a second, and Monday Night Football had different colored uniforms, and I was just like, "What the hell happened to the game we were watching?"
They decided to.
This is boring. This is boring. We're just gonna replay the Rams.
We're gonna go back to
from the other day.
Yeah, that was a better game. Anyway, so if we never talk about Christmas again, I'll be happy with it because who cares about Christmas?
All right, then. Sports ball.
Hey, nice. Thanks for giving me plenty of time to get to it.
Two shot.
Right at the end. That was good. Good.
Yeah.
I know the movement of the. I can't hear it,
The lingo,
but I can see it. I can see it moving. So here, you talk a little sports ball. Speaking of being sick and allergic to evergreens, need to blow my nose.
Are you going to excuse yourself for this purpose? All right. Anywho, I feel like the first thing we need to start off with, just really quickly up top, is the fantasy football league that we've been briefing you on all season long. Ended its regular season tonight with this final Redskins-Eagles game, and unfortunately, it looks like your good old friend Corey isn't going to make the playoffs, despite having a very quality team. I think I put together a really good squad, and they just didn't do it for me this year, and sometimes that happens, and luck of the draw sometimes. Meanwhile, stupid, everyone hates old Rob is coasting into the playoffs with a first-round bye.
I hear you say luck of the draw, but that draw that you're talking about, it's called a draft. And we picked players, and I picked really well.
And I would like to, just to put it out there, the 4 running backs that I had drafted in the draft itself,
yes,
were Melvin Gordon, who is one of the top scoring running backs this season. Top 2 running back this season.
Yeah.
I had Sonny Michel, who went from nobody to RB2.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook, who whenever he played and whenever he was healthy was a tremendous person to have in your lineup.
Never a good thing to say when you're talking about fantasy.
And I had taken a flyer on Nick Chubb, but unfortunately couldn't hold on to him because of roster construction. At some point, I needed that roster spot, and he wasn't there yet. I was just like, I'll pick him up before he gets good again. And then the week I dropped him is the week where it's just like the Browns are like, hey, Nick Chubb's on this team? Why don't we start giving the ball to him?
Yeah.
But then I replaced it with people like Gus Edwards, who's running like a madman and for the Ravens. And I don't know. My hope was to collect. I feel like talent wise, this was one of the best fantasy teams I've ever owned. I've ever been in charge of. And it just so happens sometimes you have like all these players and you're feeling really confident about it, and it just doesn't work your way, and that's the break sometimes. That's sort of how fantasy goes.
And sometimes
it's just like this fantasy baseball team that I had this past year. Like I looked at it every day and I was just like, God, this is a really talented squad. And nobody else seems to have like as good of a squad all the way around as I do.
Yeah.
Yet
why are they playing like shit?
Yeah, but I'd get injuries and stuff like that. Or I'd get somebody who's like underperforming, but I'm like, it wasn't Noah Syndergaard, but I could be like, well, I can't take Noah Syndergaard out of my lineup. It's who am I going to possibly replace him with? And then he'd go out there and get shelled, and I'd be like, oh, fuck me.
Well, some of us have that problem. Others of us are tied for first after having barely paid attention over the last 3 weeks. And going into the 400-point lead.
Yeah.
400-point lead entering the playoffs.
All means nothing once the playoffs start.
I mean, yes. And I got to start paying. No, I don't. As you pointed out earlier, I don't have to pay attention this week because I do get a bye the first week going into the playoffs. I don't know if I have a game. Do I have a game at all?
No.
I just don't play?
I mean, I think they just calculate your points, but don't apply it to anything.
I'd like to know how much I'm really going to go into the next round with, like points against versus points for. My points for are plus 400 right now. So.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to be able to see the standings at the end of it all. So,
but like you said, I mean, everything falls apart next week, and it doesn't really matter. I haven't really been paying attention, and I really should. Thursday came and went, and I realized that Cole Beasley was still in one of my lineups, and I'm like, oh, wow, all right, that was not a really good choice. But yeah, it's we'll see what happens. I don't know who I'm competing against in the playoffs. I think the last 3 weeks I've had not really great teams to play against, and I just wasn't paying attention. I gave them late wins, which ironically may have ruined your playoff chances. I may have spoiled in reverse by letting some bad teams win by just not paying attention to my lineup.
I mean, honestly, I knew that I needed to win out at a certain point, and last week when I lost, I knew it was going to be very difficult. Of course, I did the reconstruction of what would have happened if I had optimal line. If we were in a best ball league, which I know would be tough because then I'd have to calculate everyone else's points too.
And see what they are. Yeah.
But I mean, like hypothetically, if it was a best ball league and everyone else started who they normally start, I would have been 11-3 with like all these fucking points.
Yep.
And I don't.
Still less points than I have though. I'd still be up.
I think I had
plus 150.
Were you 150 over what I had calculated?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm currently plus 150 over what you had calculated. So if you included this week, then
all right. Well, yes, but you also had, Thielen and Hopkins.
I had a remarkable team this season that people were just like, I don't understand your drafting. What are you doing here? This is what I'm doing, folks. I also pay attention lightly. So I have made no moves on my lineup whatsoever, except for to make sure that all the roster spots are full, basically.
Right. Or that bye people get replaced with non-bye people. Yeah.
Yeah, for the last 4 weeks. Except for, I saw Spencer Ware. I saw that Kareem Hunt was out, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit on Spencer Ware just because fuck these guys. And I got him, and he's sitting on my bench right now. So, yeah, enjoy that. If anybody needs a running back for the first round of the playoffs. Oh, no, we're past the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Can't trade.
Right. I liked how I picked up like 4 quarterbacks too to fuck everyone too.
Yeah.
At one point I had spots open. I was just like, I'm just going to pick up every quarterback. Fuck everyone.
That almost ruined my season, but thankfully Big Ben is basically just like a tackling dummy, and no matter, he can't get hurt. He just gets hurt and gets back up and starts playing again.
Just pops right back up.
Yep. So anyway, we'll see how it's going to work out.
Yeah. We'll report back in 2 weeks when Rob gets slaughtered.
Probably
in his first playoff matchup. As usually happens in this league.
Yep.
Into the real football, though. We've sort of tiptoed around it the last couple weeks with Lamar and the starting job. But right now seems like the time we have to have the real Lamar Jackson, Joe Flacco conversation.
Yes.
Because it looks like Joe would be healthy enough to play this weekend against Kansas City. And that Lamar, who is coming off of 3 straight wins, could possibly see action, maybe do the split thing that they were doing before. I mean, even if Joe started, they would probably still have Lamar go out there, like they had before, like doing gadget plays.
Hopefully
and
more
stuff.
than that, though.
Well, yeah, but
by the way, nothing says that gadget play is coming more than
Lamar Jackson runs onto the field.
Yeah, taking Joe out and putting Lamar Jackson. Like, all right, flea flicker or Statue of Liberty, something's coming. The liberation of Puerto Rico.
Option play.
Yeah. So, I don't know. And I mean, what are you feeling? Are you Camp Joe or are you Camp Lamar at this point?
I think that there is something to be said about Joe or Lamar bringing a certain energy to this team.
Yeah.
That was missing. But what I worry about is that without Joe and with Lamar in there, this has a chance of just becoming like a track meet where, Kansas scores 40 points and the Ravens have no chance whatsoever. Like it's one of those things like there have been times in my fandom of many teams, especially the Ravens, where sometimes I'll be like, if they score 21, the Super Bowl, first Super Bowl year, it's like, if this other team scores 14 points, we're fucked.
Yeah.
Like, the defense was good enough to keep them under, keeping them under 14, but I was just like, if it so happens that the Ravens don't score, or we give up more than 14 points, like, I don't know if our offense can cover this.
Yeah.
And that would be the worry that you would have with a Lamar Jackson team as opposed to a Joe team.
Wait, were you worried that the powerful offense behind Kyle Bowler wouldn't be able to put up 14 points in the Super Bowl?
No, that was before.
Was it before? No, Kyle Bowler. He was a Super Bowl quarterback. Who was it?
It was Dilfer.
Oh, Trent Dilfer. Yes.
We went through like 5 quarterbacks that year. We had like Gerback and Dilfer and Tony Banks and Chris Redmond and like a whole bunch of different people came and went.
Murderer's row of.
There was like 4 weeks where Matt Stover was the only person who scored. It was Matt Stover and defense were the only people who scored touchdowns.
Yep. And we went to the Super Bowl, so I mean, something's working.
But I mean, like that's gonna, so obviously for the Ravens to have any chance against KC, they need to have the defense working for them.
Yes.
Keep KC out of the end zone. But then also we need the offensive firepower to like stand up to them a little bit. And I don't see the Ravens offense under Lamar, even though it has like a different energy and feels like it's more productive, is also very slow. It's like these long, huge, methodical drives down the field.
But that keeps Casey off the field.
Yes, but it also, if we're ending up with a punt or a field goal at the end of it and not a touchdown, then I mean, Lamar has one passing touchdown since.
So
like 3 rushing touchdowns and 1 passing touchdown since he joined the Ravens. So
you are under the assumption that we have
became the starter. I mean,
we have the choice between a slow and methodical Lamar Jackson who's going to run it down the field and maybe score points, maybe not, and a high-powered, high-flying Joe Flacco-driven offense that we have seen every game before Joe went down with an injury.
We have seen more of the high-flying offense with Joe, the deep downfield offense. Than we have with Lamar.
So we just got to get Lamar to start throwing for some penalties. What you're saying, right? So like throw towards the pass interference.
I don't want that
downfield.
happening, but I will happily take a 35-yard touchdown to somebody.
Okay. So maybe the answer is tell Lamar
we might as well not have all these wide receivers that we signed if we're not going to be able to throw downfield to them.
Tell Lamar
I agree. Lamar, I don't know if Lamar can throw. That's the problem. I mean, like I know that he has the arm. He's gifted. He's capable of throwing at an NFL level. What I don't know is whether or not he has a understanding of what is happening behind the first layer of the defense.
Okay.
What he might be able to read really well right now is what's coming in, like what the defensive line, the corners at the edges, maybe the linebackers and how they're moving. But something tells me that he just doesn't have safety realization yet. Like he can't read the safeties like Joe can.
So let's go forward. Oh, well, first of all, Joe's not throwing downfield either. He's dumping off it into 5 or 10 yards. So let's just let Lamar do that same thing. Why not? Why? Listen, the Joe Flacco era, I almost said Joe Montana. The Joe Flacco era is over. Let's just let him go. Let's just let him stay on the side. How about this? You want somebody who can read safeties? Let's bring in Glass Bones. What's his name?
Glass Bones?
Yeah. LG3. No.
RG3?
RG3. Yes, let's bring in RG3.
Not quite the same, but
he can throw downfield.
Yes.
He's got experience reading safeties.
Yes, but he's not as good as Joe.
Yeah, but Joe isn't as good as the Joe you're picturing in your head. If they play Joe this week, 1 week from now, you're going to be sitting here like these motherfuckers who don't know how to throw a ball downfield.
The problem, here's I think the number one thing that we need to consider when we're talking about Joe Flacco is not everything that is being lumped on Joe is not necessarily Joe's fault. There has been awful offensive play calling that has happened prior when Joe was in the games.
And we fired the OC, right?
No.
He's still there?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe that's not going to change.
There's no reason that Joe can't give the ball to Gus Johnson like Lamar Jackson has had the availability to do, and then have some actual running game going on in that way, and then opening up the field for the receivers.
Lamar has 3 straight victories.
Yeah.
He found a way to win
against 3 crappy teams.
Yeah, and Joe has losses against crappy teams earlier in the year. So what?
It's just
he's beaten some teams.
It's a very reasonable discussion with no right answer, I believe.
I think you are going to be sitting here a week from now saying, "Fucking Marty Morningwig, why would he tell Joe to check down?" He's not telling Joe to check down. Joe doesn't read safeties well either. You just think he reads them slightly better.
There's also the possibility that Joe goes into this game and then throws 2 early interceptions and then is benched for
Jameis.
What Jameis? Is benched for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And just that's it.
Are you as Joe Flacco happier with the opportunity and failing, or just being sat, getting paid for the rest of the year and then getting out of here and retiring?
Well, he wouldn't retire.
You don't think he's done?
No, somebody will throw some money.
I mean, Buffalo.
I mean, like he could be a backup somewhere.
Oh, how embarrassing!
Not embarrassing.
The franchise.
Yeah,
your franchise. Wait, what did he call himself?
Elite
quarterback, being the backup somewhere.
See, I really do think that the things would be considered way different for Joe if things had been. If Joe was drafted to the Falcons instead of the Ravens, then I think that people would have the same conversations about him that they did about Matt Ryan.
Sure.
But Matt Ryan had Julio Jones and all these amazing receivers and this high-powered offense and somebody who wanted to like be a high-powered offense.
Yeah.
And he had
a defense.
All these opportunities. And Joe just never had the same.
No, Joe had
Steve
a defense.
Smith at 40 was the best receiver that Joe ever had.
Yeah.
Or Anquan Bolden, maybe. Like when he was 33 or something like that. Like,
this is what I continue to say about my employees. You are put in a situation, and it's not necessarily the best situation, but it's about what you make of it. And that's what we see. And Joe, I mean, what has he made of it? That's really the question. He could have become Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has some more weapons to throw to, sure. But he ended up being Joe Flacco. There are other quarterbacks who've done more with less, I would say.
Yeah, I would. I think it all comes down to this. If Joe is healthy enough to play, and he's feeling 100%, I would start him against the Chiefs. If Joe is not 100%, if Joe is 90%, but thinks he could give a go of it, you're sitting out another week.
I just want to
I would not under any circumstances start Joe unless he felt like he was 100% cleared of all issues and that his hip was not going to be like, if he goes out there and gets hurt, then that doesn't help us any either. So why not just stay with the guy who has competently been doing the job?
I want to see Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. I think that is going to be the lineup that we are going to see for the next few years.
Yeah.
In this game. That's what I want to see.
Right.
But, and you know what? There is another guy in the DMV I think could play a better quarterback this week than Joe Flacco. George H.W. Bush. I know he's lying in state at the Capitol, but I'm convinced he will do a better job at quarterback than Joe Flacco would this week.
Yeah, so I was, it's weird. I actually thought that when I heard the other day that George Bush had died, I said the first thought in my head was that didn't happen already.
Yeah, No, he's old. He was 94 years old.
Oh, I know, but I think I confused him with Barbara.
Yeah,
I think when I heard Barbara died, I was just like, oh, George died. And for whatever reason in my mind, I convinced myself that George had died.
Well, she was probably the last presidential wife who would ever go by Mrs. George Bush. Because I feel like Laura is not a Laura. Laura is Laura.
Yeah.
We know Hillary's Hillary.
Yeah.
And of course, Michelle is Michelle.
Right.
And
Melania is Melania.
Well, when you post nude, I don't think you'd ever go back to be Mrs. something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, oh, by the way, the First Lady of the United States has nude pictures out there. Just so you know. That's what we're dealing with right now. Nude pictures from the First Lady of the United States. Go ahead. Sorry.
74 years the two of them were married, by the way. If I told you right now that you could live to 74, like I guarantee you die at the age of 74.
Yeah.
You would take that, right?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, like over the possibility
now,
that maybe you die in a car accident at
yes,
you know,
but am I
39
going
or
to be George Bush at 74?
No, but I'm just saying in general, if I promised you 74 guaranteed over any alternative.
Do I have to live 74? Or could I just like off myself at some point if I get done with it?
I mean, I guess that you could if you wanted to. But
am I like immortal to 74?
The point I was making is
that's a long fucking marriage.
I think so many people would say to themselves, if I made it to 74 years old as like a lifetime, I would feel pretty good about myself.
Yeah.
And here's the Bushes married for 74 years.
Can you imagine spending 74 years with the same woman?
Did you ever hear their love letters?
No. What he was in the war?
Yeah.
See, that's the difference. We don't have a war. If we had a war, we would have marriages like that. Because there's some point when Jerry's shooting at you and you're just like, I may not get home. So I appreciate the letter from this girl and I'm going to stick with her for 74 years. Now, I got nothing. All right? There is no war. There is no Great
like
Depression.
I'm going through your old texts. Like,
yeah. I'm just getting DM'd from like 22-year-old co-eds and... Come on. Hey, if I had a great war, I could shut out all of the 22-year-old co-eds and just stick with the love letters from home. Oh, and of course, he was banging hookers in the South China Sea. So,
well, there was a lot of one of the things that seemed to like crest and go away pretty quickly was the George H.W. Bush sexual assault not assault allegations, but like the inappropriate grab assing and
from
those types of things.
Well, it was early on. It was a different time.
No, I'm saying like it's so funny how we will put a microscope to literally anything, And
well, I don't want to put a microscope to a 94-year man's penis. I don't really want to do that.
I was saying, we'll put a microscope to anything, but then George Bush dies, and it's just like different time. You slap a secretary's ass. Like it was considered okay then when you were George Bush.
I mean, he was business drunk. You're legally allowed to drive. It's fine.
I wonder if we'll ever have another. It's really him and Adams that are like. With the same sort of pedigree of elected officialness. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, I'm saying he was an ambassador to China.
Sure.
Head of the CIA.
Yep.
Was he in Congress?
I think he started out in Congress.
I thought he started in Congress.
Yes,
yeah.
From Texas, which is why George went back to Texas.
Yeah. Because his father was a senator from Connecticut or something like that.
Right.
Prescott or Preston. I don't know.
Prescott Bush.
Prescott Bush.
Yeah.
And then vice president.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty good resume.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough to beat.
Father of 2 governors.
Yeah. President. Future president.
Wait. Yeah. Where's the other? Who's the other Bush?
Jeb,
George, and...
I don't remember the other.
There's another one. Is there a fuck-up brother? Is there like a Billy Bush? Is Billy Bush related to them? I don't think
Billy Carter.
Was it Billy Carter? No.
Bobby. No, it was Billy because Billy Beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it was I don't remember Clinton's stupid brother.
Oh,
Roger
Clinton. Yeah. But it was his half brother. So it's not the same thing. Anyway,
but he had all the unfortunate looks of Clinton without any of the style or charm.
It's a bad combination. But no,
he looked like a fatter, more road hard version of Clinton. But then he was just be like, "Hey, anybody want to go Hooters later?"
Bush,
Roger, just chill the fuck out.
Stay in the West Wing. But George nearly had 2 sons as president.
Yeah, if Jeb had managed to get those people to clap for him,
clap, please,
please clap.
Hey, Jeb, at least there was more than one person that year. More than one person at your event.
I do enjoy. Yeah, poor Marty.
At least Martin O'Malley had one enthusiastic guy. He was like, "Yeah, Marty!"
It wasn't even an enthusiastic guy. It was some guy who was like on the fence. And I think they like talked to him afterwards, and they're just like, "So, are you an O'Malley voter now?" He's just like, "Probably not, but I wanted to hear what he had to say, and I really appreciate he took the time."
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
I think it's so funny, too, that during that election, we're just like, all right, fucking enough of the Bushes, all right? We had George, we had W, we're not having fucking Jeb. I don't care what the hell you tell me, we're not having Jeb. Ooh, Hillary Clinton.
And by the way, you know what the result of that was? Trump. That's what we got. Thank you. I would honestly, Jeb Bush versus Trump. Who would you take?
Oh, my God. Jeb.
Arguably less corruption under a Bush administration.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those like I don't think Jeb Bush would fuck things up too bad.
Yeah,
but I also like would be worried, much like his brother. I would be worried that something like 9/11 would happen during his time.
Yeah,
and then there would be like a rallying around him, and it's just like Jeb knows the answers, and it's just like. Nobody who's ever in this position knows the answer.
No. Yeah, I feel like that would be like John Quincy Adams, who just basically was like, "Hey, I got a good resume, and my dad was president, and I'm just gonna cruise. Just
gonna enjoy the rest of my life."
Yeah, I had nobody run against him. Golden age of politics. Only one real party. Anyway, so George H.W. Bush sadly died, and he's looking at a long legacy, as you said. He has a long resume, which just shows that if you're patient enough and you stick around, and then you'll eventually just be in D.C. for a long time. So, I mean, what do you want to say about him?
I think that there's a lot of retrospect that's going on about Bush 41 that is both positive and negative here.
Okay.
I think that the positive end of it is that there's more people sort of realizing that Bush was in large part sort of like the fulcrum point, I guess, between the Republican Party of old and the Republican Party of new, where for certainly from Nixon on, there was the racist, like, I hate everyone except for the white people version of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
That was quietly asked to sit in the corner and not be acknowledged, but wink, wink, we're going to, whenever we have the opportunity, we're going to throw a bone your way.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, you know, Bush would, if ever brought up by some racist supporter or something like that, would instantly, like, unequivocally be like, I do not support that. Like, I am not, you know, you would do everything he could to avoid the David Duke side of the party.
Right.
Whereas Trump's just like, come on in. And like, it became,
there's good people everywhere.
It became tougher at the Bush point. Like, and it felt like it was such a, for the politics of the Republican Party at the time, when you go off the wave of Reagan, and then you get into Bush, and then you're usurped by Clinton. And Bush is the only president in our lifetimes who served one term.
Yep.
Everyone else was a two-term president. And it really felt like Bush let down the Republican Party when he lost.
And Clinton came to the middle, and that shifted the Republican Party to the right.
Yeah.
And the Bush 43
Bush
tried to bring it back.
Bush was always more of a moderate Republican, if you will. He was not as extreme. His son is way more conservative than he was.
Yes. Yeah.
As president.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was still right-leaning, but I'm saying he was more. This was still in the age where there were, like Clinton being the moderate Democrat. Yeah. There were a legitimate feeling that there was like sort of a 4 stages of.
I also have a feeling that
the parties.
Bush 43 was way less conservative than we imagine, and I feel like Vice is going to give us a real big impact on, like, he's just a dummy, and he was led to this conservative push
right
by Dick Cheney, who is very much a very conservative person.
Yeah.
Very much the wink, wink, nod, nod. Yes, we're both racist, but I can't be public about it. So just come with me.
I got to keep this shit on unwrapped.
Yeah. We're going to go kill some Arabs. Yes, but we can't say that. We're going to kill terrorists. That's what we're doing. But yeah, you say he has a good and bad legacy. I say he's a warmongering, hate person. So fuck him, and I'm glad he's dead. Much like McCain.
I will say this.
Rotten hell, you piece of shit. Yeah.
I think there's an important part of looking back at Bush's legacy. Just to use the word as sort of a catch-all.
Legacy, sure. I mean, legacy can be good and bad.
Yeah.
Hitler has a legacy.
I'm just saying.
Corey's point of view, it's a good one. For mine, it's a bad one.
I didn't want you to just go like, "Don't you fucking use the legacy word with George Bush." I'm gonna.
No, but it's a legacy.
I think that what it's giving us an opportunity to do is to look within a very select window here between the early 90s and today, where decisions that were made under his administration, which had consequences, have sort of rounded themselves into a completion by now.
Let's go earlier.
So I'm saying, like,
let's say in 1983, when Reagan put him in charge of the NIH study about the new cancer that was going around the country, and neither Reagan nor Bush used the words HIV or AIDS at all in the 1980s.
Right.
And millions of people died.
Right.
Because they did not want to recognize a disease because the major afflicted party were gay men.
Right.
And that's why he's a hate-monger.
No, but I'm not disagreeing with that point. I'm just saying that with the years that have passed since he was president.
Okay.
And now in this week of mourning where we're looking back on his legacy and stuff like that, I'm saying that it gives us a full picture of things like that. Whereas at the time, people who might have been on the right side of the issue, the right political side of the issue, were you know, it was a popular opinion to not be inclusive of the gay community.
Well,
and,
how about
and I'm saying that we can see sort of like a direct line between the Reagan Bush years and how many people died in the gay community due to AIDS and HIV and everything like that. And, you know, we can look back on that now with 30 years essentially of, information and data and how things have changed and what could have been done earlier and stuff like that. It's much like when we were watching the Looming Tower and getting back into things that led up to 9/11 type of thing. Like when W dies, he's 72 now. Let's say he lives as much as his dad, so he lives another 20 years.
Not.
But I'm saying he lives another 20 years. In 20 years, we might have like sort of a more full and complete picture of everything that had happened with Al Qaeda and terrorism and where things went.
They're going to finally admit that the U.S. government was behind 9/11. Is that what you're saying?
No,
that's
but I'm saying
be released. That George W. Bush was the unwitting pawn of Dick Cheney. God, I really hope the unnerving scene in Vice is Dick Cheney ordering the attack on the World Trade Center. That would be amazing, and I will enjoy that. But 1990, he goes to war in Panama after aiding Noriega with the drug trade in the 80s under Reagan and Iran-Contra, then going to war with him and trying to kill him in 1990, turning him over to authorities for trial, and then tacitly telling Saddam Hussein, if you go into Kuwait, that's not an American problem, and then sending 500,000 soldiers into Saudi Arabia to defend it, and then kick him out of Kuwait and invade Iraq. Start sanctions in the UN, which lasted for 10 years, which decimated an entire generation of Iraqis. By the way, leaving troops in Saudi Arabia in 1991, which led to a little group, I don't know if you've heard of them, called Al Qaeda, and in fact 9/11, which can be directly traced back to the Gulf War and leaving the troops in there. All of this, thanks to your buddy, George H.W. Bush.
Don't
also,
buddy me.
How about Somalia, getting us involved in a half-baked war where the rules of engagement said that we couldn't actually fight back. American people lost their stomach for it. Clinton had to pull out. But essentially, everything that happened in Somalia was the fault of Bush. He ignored what was happening in sub-Saharan Africa. He ignored what was happening in the Balkans. He beat the Russians, and he said, let's go take a fucking victory lap for beating the Russians, and ending the Cold War, but then completely failed to address any of the fallout, like the economic consequences of bringing West and East Germany back together, or the falling apart that was happening in the Balkans, or nuclear weapons proliferation coming out of Russia, which, by the way, he gave $0 for. Exactly $0. When weapons were being stolen at the same time, he was giving the New World Order speech. All of these things. People dying from famine all over the world. People dying from AIDS all over the world. He did nothing, but found time to go to war 4 times in 4 years.
Well, Mrs. Lincoln, other than that, how's the play?
Yes. So everyone can have a very positive opinion of him. Oh, he was a pilot in World War II and he got shot down, and God, wouldn't we have been blessed if he had drowned in the South Pacific instead of living and having this thing. Moving on to being the head of the CIA, where in the 60s and 70s, he led coups all over the world, taking over democratically and murdering democratically elected people and installing American-friendly regimes, which, by the way, I didn't even get to that at the beginning. I went through all of the shitty things he did as president, mentioned a little bit about vice president, but let's talk about the 10 years he was the head of the CIA and how many democratically elected leaders were murdered at his command because he decided he wanted somebody who was more American-friendly.
Okay.
That's the guy who's lying in state. Let's honor this man. You know what? And it's fulfilling that we as Americans honor him. Because if there is one man who defines what America is today, it's George H.W. Bush. Let's depose free choice all over the world. Let's not care about minority groups and people who are suffering here and elsewhere. Let's go to war no matter what the consequences are. That is America. So it's only fitting that we honored George H.W. Bush, a man who stands for all of those things.
I like how worked up you get about it.
I think that
I literally heard the news, and I think just out of like much like you get hit by the hammer and your knee pops up or your leg pops up. I was like, George H.W. Bush dies, and I was just like, oh, what a shame, and just moved on with my day. Didn't think about it at all.
No, he's a hate monger. So
other than if I see a little something in the news about something that like some reflection of him or something like that, I really don't give a shit. He really didn't.
How many stories of organizing in the gay community in the 1980s are you seeing in popular culture now? Like how many movies? How many books?
I mean, there were several that have come out.
Like what?
What?
Like what? Give me an example.
Like the band marches on.
Okay, that was from the 80s
Yeah.
itself. Now I'm talking about right now today.
Oh, right now? No, I mean like right now today. But
why are there none today?
Because there's just not as much. That's not something that's...
Because every single person who would be there to write the story is dead. Everyone who was getting people together, who was making marches happen, who was trying to fight for civil rights, who was trying to fight for medical care, who was trying to fight for research, is dead. All of them are dead. An entire generation. But George H.W. Bush got to live to be 94 years old. And what did he say in 1991? If the people find out what we have done, they will drag us out into the street and hang us. And God willing, we'll still do that. I regret that we missed the opportunity to do that to him. Kick him out of that wheelchair and drag him through the streets like American soldiers were in Mogadishu.
He gets so worked up. So precious. He's
a fucking hate monger, and he deserves everything. I hope that he suffered. The saddest part of that whole story was how quietly he seemed to die. I really wish he would have been more suffering. Although maybe they're just, had that sweet story and really he was like thrashing and choking on his own bile. That would really make the story better in my opinion. But anyway, so that's America. This is America.
Going from the 41st president to the 45th president.
And God willing, the 46th president any day now.
46th president Nancy Pelosi. Suck on that, Fox News.
I'm not even a fan of that. Just so it's clear, I don't want that to happen.
I just like if Mueller comes up with the lectern and the piles of paper and stuff like that. And he's just like everybody else. Pence, Trump. It's like, all right, let's get into it. Where should I start? What pile should I start in?
Can we start with Nancy Pelosi's pile? I hope there's a pile that has Nancy Pelosi's name on it.
Oh man, if for whatever reason Trump and Pence fell and Nancy went, Sean Hannity would literally explode on air. And Jesse Waters would stab his own neck out.
If that's the case, if you think that they are closing in, if they're closing in on Trump and they're closing in on Pence, do you think he convinces Pence to step down? Do they do a Agnew? Do they do an Agnew? They get rid of him so they can get somebody else in the line of succession just to stop Nancy Pelosi from becoming president?
No, I think that if Pence were to resign right now, just like
how they get somebody else confirmed?
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to get anyone confirmed.
No, it's a simple majority, and the Republicans still hold the House or the Senate.
Yeah, but who the fuck are you gonna get to be vice president that you feel like?
Orrin Hatch. Just skip over Pelosi. Just put in Hatch. That way, technically, line of succession hasn't changed that much. We've moved 4 to 2.
All we have to do is get through 2 fucking years of Orrin Hatch as president, and I swear to God, we'll fix it on the other end. We haven't come up with the plan yet. We'll figure it out later. Just give us Orrin Hatch right now.
You don't think there's one senior statesman in the Senate that they could just put? I mean, not fucking Mitch McConnell, but you don't think there's one person that they could get through? Like, the Senate is the only one who has to approve him.
Yeah.
And it's a simple majority. You don't think they can get
No, it's
one?
not.
No, it's 50.
It's 60.
No.
For the vice president?
The nuclear option has been invoked. There is no such thing as they can have cloture by a 51 vote. And ironically, no, they would need at least 51 because Pence wouldn't be there to break a tie. So they would need 51. But nuclear option means that cloture can be brought with a simple majority vote. They're talking about appointing people. All of the appointments would theoretically need 60 because you have to be greater than a filibuster amount. But cloture is the vote that shuts down the filibuster, and that's been done by a simple majority. That's what they call the nuclear option. The cloture vote by a simple majority. And that is the rules for this Senate right now. Go ahead, research it. Oh, wait. Let's get a close-up on his face when he realizes I'm right. You don't get to see this happen.
Whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the vice president, the president shall nominate a vice president who shall take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both houses of Congress.
Is it really?
Yes. So it's not
But, okay, so if you're Trump, all right, let's
go back to this. You would need to get somebody who would get through both the Republican Senate and the Democratic House.
have Pence do it right now. Lame duck your Republican Congress. Lame duck your Republican Senate.
Oh man,
pound him in there. Just be like, no judges, no wall, no nothing. We need a new guy here now, please. How is there not somebody walking around the West Wing right now just saying like, okay, listen, seriously guys, Pence, can we do something about this? Oh, you're a party guy, right? We'll bring you back. We'll take care of you. It's fine. We just need you to step down now because we have 2 weeks. We got 2 weeks until we're done. And if everybody goes down, this whole ship's going down. And Nancy Pelosi's going to be here. And then they're literally Fox News heads are going to explode. Fox and Friends is going to go purge on everyone.
See, I think at this point Mueller just waits until the new year.
But you have to know it's coming.
He's just going to slowly drag out little bits and pieces until the new year, and then.
No, I honestly think that they're playing.
He's waiting. He's waiting for the new house to be set. I think before he does anything, because at the very least you sit the new house and then you can have 2 years of investigations.
I don't think he brings them even then. Because right now, I think he's being political. And right now, there is a 50-50 or 51-50. We're not pushing any new business through in the Senate. Until what? What did Jeff Flake and his compadre say?
No votes until Mueller is protected.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're Mueller, why would you drop charges? Just drag your feet. Because you can stop all business in the Senate until you get your protection.
His protection doesn't mean anything once he releases his report. Once he releases his findings, it's sort of irrelevant whether or not he still has the job.
You're acting like he's not political, and he is political.
Oh, I know he's political.
And you don't think Nancy Pelosi's on the phone like, hey there, what's his first name?
Robert?
Hi, Rob. Hey, Rob. How's it going? Yeah, so if you could just not do anything for the next, 6 months, that would be fantastic. That was my Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It's not too far off, right?
Well, you got the facial expression right.
What if I had so much plastic surgery that I couldn't move anything? And that's the voice that comes out. Yes, in a perfect world where no one was political, he wouldn't care. He would just drop his findings and be fine. But right now he has the Senate right where he wants them, and he either gets a protection vote or no business gets done.
I don't think he cares about the protection vote. I really don't.
I don't think he does either, but I think it's political and he doesn't want the Senate to start confirming these judges.
I think he's waiting for Trump to do something. I think he's turned on the heat, and now he's just sitting there waiting for Trump to make some sort of move that would be the end of it all, you know?
Well, speaking of the heat, we found out this week that two of the people who struck deals may have lied. One of them confirmed that he did in fact lie. One in fact confirmed he did lie. The other one may have lied. And then that has caused a new flip, and apparently Cohen is now going to testify.
Well, Cohen has agreed to help the special counsel's office.
Yes.
We don't know if that means testify. I would assume that at some point it would come to that if it ever went to a courtroom. But
P.S. Can someone in the White House explain to Donald Trump that obstruction of justice and witness tampering are things that he needs to avoid right now?
Yeah.
Because you should not tweet things like, Roger Stone, at least somebody has the
nerve not to
testify against me or something. Really?
Yeah.
And did you see Rudy Giuliani's tweet?
No.
Well, he tweeted something that was like meaningless, but he accidentally tweeted a link in the middle of it because he put Trump.in to say Trump, period, in July.
Yeah.
Trump.in takes you to a website that is anti-Trump. So Giuliani accidentally tweeted a link to an anti-Trump website. Now, I say accidentally because I assume it was accidental. But maybe Giuliani's just like, no, fuck this guy. We got to get him out. I don't know.
Sometimes I wonder if Trump's mind worked like he said to himself, so ineffective assistance of counsel is something that I can go on an appeal, right? Like,
Rudy. Get on the streets.
I need a lawyer.
Get on the streets, Rudy. Yeah.
Anytime he goes on TV, it's just like, he's not guilty because he took too much money. How could anybody who got so much money from Russia be guilty? And it's just like, oh man, my ineffective assistance of counsel is going to be so good.
Might not be president, but I won't see the inside of a prison. That's the most important
thing. Just appeal forever in life.
Right. But I think Trump is the smaller story this week. I think the bigger story is, and I guess we should probably wrap on this. Well, we'll do a quick stop to the Baltimore Cohen at the end, but this will be the last story. All of you people, all of you preachy ass people, all of you preachy ass motherfuckers who said, oh, go out and vote. Your vote matters. You could make the difference. How are you feeling about that today?
Fine.
You feeling fine about that?
Mm-hmm.
Even with the news that the Republicans sincerely stole a seat in North Carolina. Sincerely took a seat. Just direct voter fraud. And now they're going to seat a Republican congressman. And the only people who could order a new election are the elected Republican State Board of Elections. So the people in charge of the new election are Republicans. Also, like the guy who won. And they're also elected by the people.
Okay, so let me paint a hypothetical for you.
Yes, go ahead.
To respond to your thought about voting here. Let's say I was very anti theme park. Mm-hmm. It was just like, I don't know why anyone would go. They're expensive and you could get hurt, and they're, the food's terrible, and like Coke costs $8, and anyone who goes there is stupid. Mm-hmm. And then you say like, oh well, I want to go to the theme park. I'm like, well, fine, go. You do it. See how proud you are of going to the theme park afterwards. And then you go to the theme park. You go to Disneyland, and Space Mountain goes off the rails, and you fall, and you become a paraplegic.
Yes.
And then I continue going on my like, well, who's right about the theme parks here?
I would expect you to. I would 100% expect you to.
Who is right and who was wrong?
Yes.
And you're taking the one example of the time where something went wrong, and you're painting it to be something. Whereas in the end, what might end up happening from all this is that this isn't allowed to happen again. We find a way to fix this problem, and we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah.
Because so many times the law in many cases is reactive to things that happen. Mm-hmm. People don't think about writing a law into you don't.
Who is it that's going to pass this law? The Republican North Carolina legislature?
Maybe
the Republican North Carolina Senate.
Listen, anyone who feels like
the Republican-held Senate of the United States of America.
Anyone who feels like their job might be taken away from them if they don't vote a certain way might feel some pressure.
Jose Huizar?
Just leave the bag with the $sign on my desk. I'll get to it later.
All I'm saying is,
by the way, just a quick aside on that one.
Yeah,
canceled a night on Broadway.
Really?
Yeah, something tells me that he's not going to be out in the public very much.
Did he cancel his appearance or the whole thing?
Canceled the whole thing.
So,
to the best of my knowledge.
So, dude, you do this thing that's really good for the community, and because you got caught with your hand in the cookie.
The one thing that we all really like.
Yeah, you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar, and now you cancel the event that's good for the community because you can't be there to show off.
Have your name posted everywhere.
Yeah. Again, this is what democracy looks like. I hope that you are enjoying this. Because again, yes, in this pipe dream, isn't it? We find this problem and we address it, except for we won't. Because the only people who could do something about it are the people who benefit from it. And Stacey Abrams is bringing a lawsuit, and the court's going to tell them, no, you need to change. Just like the court told North Carolina, you need to redo your map.
It takes longer for change to happen when the powers that be don't want it to change. That's clearly obvious. But
wait. Why are we rushing? Why are we rushing a change? Let's let this marinate for the next 10 or 20 years. We don't want to rush. Listen, you don't want to rush nudity at the beach. God knows I don't want to rush changing our format of democracy.
I'm not saying we can't change the format of democracy. All I'm saying is that you need to realize that when it's something difficult, when it's something that the powers that be don't want to have changed, then it takes a long time. But eventually the will of the people does come through.
Does it?
Yes.
Does it?
Yes.
Is the will of the people being served right now?
Not right now, but in the future we will have this issue fixed.
You think?
I think so.
How is it going to be fixed? That's my question. How's it going to be fixed?
Well, there's many things that can be done to keep this sort of thing from happening again in the future.
At the last election, the Democrats sued because they said that the Republicans had gerrymandered the districts in North Carolina.
And they won.
Yeah. And did those districts get redrawn?
Not yet.
So 4 years later, another election was held with the illegal districts because the judge said, you can't have these. And North Carolina said, okay. Well, we're not going to redraw them.
Yeah.
Do you know what Andrew Jackson?
I mean, there's going to be a new. They're going to have to redraw them anyway in 2 years. So,
I mean, maybe, or maybe they just gerrymander them worse.
I mean, they could, but then they're just going to.
And there's going to be a lawsuit, and then famously, do you know what Andrew Jackson said about the Supreme Court?
No.
If the Supreme Court justices would like this law to be changed, let them go down here and change it themselves or enforce it themselves.
Right.
That's
they made their ruling. Now let's see them enforce it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So none of this matters. How many federal courts have to order things and then nothing comes of it? And by the way, in 2020, when we do redistricting, for the first time, the Voting Rights Act will not be in effect for redistricting. Mm-hmm. So we can do whatever we want based on right. Here is a nice black district. Well, we don't call it the black district. We call it the socioeconomic district A1. Great. It's 99% black voters. But because the Voting Rights Act is no longer in effect, especially Title I of the Voting Rights Act, then it doesn't matter. We can put all the black people in one district. And we can make it the most odd-shaped district just to get all the black people in there because God knows we want our racists next door to be able to say, we don't like black people to the white voters.
Okay, so let's play a little
democracy.
Let's play a little game of this thing is perfect just the way it is. Is there anything that ever just on its own without any kind of help or any kind of influence was just perfect right out the gate?
We are 225 years into this.
No, I'm just saying. So
you're trying to improve.
It's never. This is the problem. Is that democracy is never going to be perfect, and it's always got to be. There's always got to be a strive for change, and that change just happens to take a long time. And people don't like the fact that there's some injustice that's happening right now, and we're not going to be able to feel like there's some sort of resolution for it for maybe a decade or more. That's why when I brought up George H.W. Bush and talking about like now we have a more defined view of his legacy because we have the purview of all the things that happened in the 30 years after he was president and before he died, we can see some resolutions to the things that he did and things that he did and how they had cataclysmic event consequences for what happened after him and stuff like that. And how one thing that he did led to his son being able to be president and led to, Palin and led to Trump and led to this and led to that. And like, this is never meant to be, it's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be always worked on.
That's not true.
It's supposed to be a system to be tinkered with.
Why would we tinker with this system? We're tinkering with a system that was developed and built by slave owners.
Why would you have elected representatives if there wasn't ever a need to tinker with the system?
Because they are it's a representative democracy.
You might as well just have a House of Lords.
It's a representative democracy. That's why you elect people because not everyone can vote on every single issue. So something
happened. I mean, like, you wouldn't have expected Nixon to write any laws about the internet when he was the president because that wasn't around then.
Now that is a completely different issue.
No, I don't.
You're talking about something completely. You're saying that this didn't exist, and so he couldn't have passed law. Absolutely, you're right.
So
now you're just reductio ad absurdum. I'm saying
but I'm saying like
this is an issue right now.
You wake up before the election starts, and you say to yourself, "Oh, there's no law. He can't lose his election if I commit voter fraud on his behalf." And then you found your loophole to get him elected. Now there's a chance that we can get that changed, so that can't happen again. And there's punishment for a campaign that has somebody working for them who does something illegal.
Except ex post facto, it doesn't affect that campaign.
It doesn't affect that campaign,
but it can those people who did.
But it can change things for the future and keep it from happening again.
Except for the only people who can change it are unwilling to change it because they benefit from it. That's the point.
The people right now are not.
How long is it going to take 2 generations of North Carolinians to try and get to the point where
right now Republicans all across the government, from state houses to the federal government to both houses of Congress, are doing everything that they can to get as much outlandish shit passed as they can while they can. Because they know there's a difference coming. When Bush was elected, Bush 41 was elected, the voting the makeup of the voters was 85% white.
Yeah.
It was 85% white.
And now it's down to an astounding 74% white.
But in the next 15 to 20 years, that number could get to 50 or could get lower.
No, population-wise, yes. Voter-wise, no.
It's not. We don't know for sure which way it's going. I'm just saying that there's massive changes in periods of time that seem like they're forever, but in the long scheme of human experience are not as long as that.
Listen, old chap. I know that Parliament, they're passing all the kinds of these taxes. The king seems like he doesn't care at all. But why would we rush off and try to do something stupid like creating our own country? We need to let some time pass, and after a while, all of these problems will go away. I promise you that. Let's not rush off and try to do something with our heads.
How long passed between
10 years.
Yeah.
The first Tax Act and the Revolution were 10 years apart.
Okay.
That
didn't happen 10 minutes apart from one another.
As you aptly pointed out, George Bush happened 30 years ago.
Right. I could have had insight onto Bush 10 years after he passed as well. Or 10 years after he was out of office as well. If I had that same statement where I said now we can look back on his legacy, if he had passed away in 2003 or something like that, I mean, it would have been different because we would be having that conversation with his son in the White House. But I'm saying, like, hypothetically, we could be having the same sort of conversation where we could say that, you know, these acts that he did contributed to the deaths of people in the gay community, or, you know, things that he did here have furthered the acts of terrorism that influenced the world beyond it. Like, you know, we would be able to see these things. It still would happen within those 10 years. It does. It's
10 years. The 10 years I'm talking about.
If you want it fixed, you have to do something about it.
The 10 years I'm talking about. It also took 3 months for you to contact your friend in Baltimore when you lived in Massachusetts, in Boston. It now takes you 10 seconds to contact your friend in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So on that scale, shouldn't things happen a lot faster?
Yeah.
And why don't they? Because the only people who are in a position to change it are the people who benefit from it. So it will never change unless we, the people, change it. And by the way, democratic institutions aren't the way to do that, because you go and you cast your fucking vote, and you know what? It doesn't fucking matter because someone packed a ballot box or a mail-in ballot or a provisional ballot, and your vote got diluted by 10. So the guy they want to win wins, and they get away with it, and maybe a law gets passed 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that fixes that. And in the meantime, they get 20 years of gerrymandering districts, of putting Republicans in, of having a Senate that was designed by slaveholders to keep power in the small states with low population. And now the power of the Senate resides in the hands of 30% of the population.
I mean, we're you know, I think the classic example of it takes a long time sometimes when you're going against the wills of the power that be is right there, and part of what you said with Reconstruction and Jim Crow and everything like that. Like,
as a white male, I'm sure you understand those struggles.
Could you hypothetically have, after the Emancipation Proclamation, said to yourself, all right, well, clean slate, just everyone gets to vote now, and everyone gets the same rights as regardless of race, everyone gets the same rights as everybody else? That's
exactly what did happen.
But it never got enforced.
It absolutely did. The end of Reconstruction in 1876 is when Jim Crow came into effect. While the federal government was running things in the South, we had African-American congressmen and senators elected from southern districts that were majority black. When the federal troops pulled out in 1876 as part of the Great Compromise that put Benjamin Hayes in the White House, ended Reconstruction, that's when Jim Crow came in.
Harrison, you mean?
Harrison, yes. That's when when Reconstruction ended is when Jim Crow came in. So if we had never ended Reconstruction, then all of this would never have happened.
But I'm saying that Reconstruction is part. There's
what
reactions to what is put out there.
The election of 1866 changed everything from the end of the war in 1865. And that 10 years was revolutionary. You're talking about things going backwards in the 10 years after the end of Reconstruction.
Because there's a step
who
forward
choose to
and there's
benefit have
5
all
steps
the power.
back.
Because the people who choose to who do benefit have all the power. And the situation at the end of Reconstruction is the situation we have now. The people who benefit from it, if they could take away votes from people, they would. Not because the voting fucking matters, because they don't want to have to deal with the crime and the cover-up. Why would they? But in the end, who cares about the cover-up? Because Trump, crime, nobody cares. North Carolina, crime, nobody fucking cares. In the end, no one cares. And the thing I said outside... all of these legislatures all over the country are trying to limit the power of incoming Democrats. Fantastic. You know what's going to happen? Fucking zero. Because American voters are stupid and they have a short memory. And by the time the next election rolls around, it'll be the next fucking thing. What Kardashian is doing what? What is Kanye off his drugs? Miley Cyrus has a new fucking song. Who cares? None of them. None of them care about anything. None of it matters. And you'll continue to think that your vote matters despite the fact that all the evidence supports the opposite. That the vote really doesn't matter. That what's going to happen is going to happen with or without your vote. They'll decide what the end result is. By the way, they're presenting you the 2 candidate choices.
Mm-hmm. Can I pitch an idea to you real quick? And then we can wrap up.
If it's not guillotines, I'm not interested.
Can I pitch an idea to you real quick?
Go.
You know how like over the last 10, 20 years, like people who watch Fox News have gotten more and more ridiculous, like the people who watched it all the time.
Sure.
And how the same people who go onto Facebook or Twitter and see some ridiculous nonsense from some unverifiable source,
like Rachel's mom,
and just runs off with that information and believes it wholeheartedly until you manage to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Perhaps the same sort of things that are happening to the same sort of influences that are directing those people might be happening in a similar way on the left side.
Okay.
And maybe you've gotten caught up in that a little bit.
I would argue that
perhaps where you are feeling like there's a great radicalization that is about to happen when in fact it's just the pajama people on the internet.
So
just talking off.
It has happened on the left. Because people who watch CNN are just as bad as people who watch Fox News. People who watch MSNBC are just as bad as people who watch Fox News. I don't believe that there's a great radicalization about to happen. I understand that 3% of the population can bring about drastic change. But not the 3% who are involved don't actually understand that. Because I'm smarter than all of you. And that's what you don't understand. You need leadership and you need intelligence. And I have both of those things. You have none of those things. Not you. You out there have none of those things. There is no great radicalization coming, but because people aren't radical anymore. Because they have perfectly primed the pump over the last 10 years. Because these things keep us fucking distracted forever. And we care more about the Kardashians than we do our elected leaders. And we care about what movies coming out. And we're prepared to pay police chiefs of cities with 300 murders a year the number 4 amount in the country, because that's what we do.
So quick stop in the Baltimore corner?
Yes. Hang on. You're really giving me Baltimore corner.
Where you get the straight dope?
Anyway, so I said we were going to stop by here. Quickly, it looks like Joel, what's his name?
Fitzgerald
from Fort Worth is up for approval by the Baltimore
City Council.
There have been thoughts, comments, tweets.
I think what the most interesting part is the number of op-eds I've seen written in the Sun by people who say that the City Council should not approve Joel Fitzgerald under any circumstances and just deny him outright because Catherine Pugh has not been open about the process at all.
Yes.
Which is a first step that happens right before members of the city council start saying the same thing out loud.
Yes.
So I'm just saying when later this week when you hear 5 city council members, maybe even Jack Young comes out there and says it, maybe you even get a big name in the pile.
I feel like it's already being said amongst two. I can't remember the two, but there's two who are always.
Well, there's like Brandon Scott, who's always like
rabble rousing.
Yeah,
the two rabble rousing.
Yeah.
The white guy, the young white guy, and the young black guy are always rabble rousing on the city.
Isn't
council.
it Mitzi who's the other one who's always rabble rousing?
I can't remember. There's the white guy with the beard, and he like was all clean shaven for the election, and then immediately just went back hipster, and now he's just like full beard and backwards hats at city council meetings, and everyone's up in arms about him.
Somebody tells me that Joel is going to be denied and then quietly told to go back to Fort Worth.
Luckily, he didn't give up his job there. But here's the deal, and here's my point of view. They're offering him. Pew is said to have offered him the 4th highest pay of any police chief in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I don't oppose that. In fact, I say make him the best paid chief in the country. However, tie that pay to results, not just we're going to give you this just for coming and showing up every day.
So you have a minimum, and then you can reach certain performance enhancers.
Minimum.
Yeah.
100K? It's
Sure.
a decent salary, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if he does some overtime, he could turn that into like 1.1 million.
Sounds like how the Baltimore Police Department does it. So.
Basically, right?
Yeah.
That's how it goes. So
somehow you've managed to take this 6-figure job into a high 6-figure job. And all you had to do was sleep in a car every once in a while.
By the way, I understand that there is a Twitter account or an Instagram account that is literally just all cops sleeping in cars in Baltimore County, or Baltimore City.
Yeah,
it's just somebody going around Canton and like some cop sitting in Canton where there's no crime, sleeping in his car.
Yeah.
Working overtime for sure. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, I heard that old
36 hours.
I'm
of
gonna nap me
shift.
some overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
that is a phrase I've heard from Baltimore City cops before, so I think that's
so 100K out of the gate. Now, if you can get murders below 300 for the year,
that's not realistic.
I mean, we're going to be at like 340 or 50 probably.
How would one possibly? Murders aren't something that can change with the administration.
I feel like there are steps you could take. There's probably steps.
According to the FOP, nothing changes unless you give more overtime. That's the only thing that changes the murder rate. Imagine how many murders we'd have if we didn't have all this overtime.
Yeah. By the way, this week in Baltimore, 4 shootings within a few block radius. Apparently, somebody just allegedly driving around randomly shooting people out the window of a car because we've officially joined Mad Max. That's where Baltimore is right now. Like. And you were saying that there's another woman who was...
Yeah, so there was a 52-year-old mother who was shot and killed giving money to a beggar. For
Not by the
better
beggar,
term.
though. Not by the beggar.
Not by the beggar. Yes. By a third party.
Yeah.
Shot and killed. To which I started wondering, to what end do we have here? Like, this is the type of thing, like... I was thinking about it like in this term a little earlier. Like it sometimes being in charge and being in control is like being a dog walker of many dogs.
Okay.
You know? And some of the dogs, like, you know, let's say Social Security is one of our dogs. You're president and Social Security is one of your dogs. But you know, they don't really get in trouble. They don't really overspend. They're pretty well behaved.
Making money right
dog.
now.
Yeah, like it's not a problem. You let that one wander a little bit, you know?
Sure.
Because you know it's not going to get into trouble. But, you know, like energy, that gets into trouble all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Like when you're talking about Saudi Arabia and their gas and like, are we going to drill the middle of the Atlantic Ocean?
Also the murdering of journalists.
Yeah, I mean, all these
Is
things.
that related to the energy
These are
dog?
all dogs that you're walking down the street with. And
Okay,
some of them
yeah.
you have to keep a little bit of a tighter grasp on.
Sure.
And you know, if you let a dog that needs the tighter grasp, like go out and start, you know, like fooling around, then you're going to have problems eventually when that dog is just like completely uncontrollable and you can't break him. You can't bring him back to that point before because you've let him see the freedom.
And that's the Baltimore Police Department.
That's Baltimore right now.
Okay.
Crime in the like late 80s and early 90s when it just started to like spike up like that should have been the time where somebody was just like, whoa, we have to get this shit under control.
Yes.
Tighten
the leash down.
This crime problem needs to stand right next to my shoe.
Yeah.
Like if I walk, it walks, and I'm gonna keep
Is that Cesar Romero?
Yeah,
Cesar
yeah.
Romero.
Other things in the city, I don't have to. I got to keep the crime close.
We'll worry about the infrastructure in the 2000s.
Infrastructure
right?
dog is out there just running around in a field. It's okay. We'll worry about that when it becomes the problem.
When the water mains start exploding every week. Yes.
When that dog starts dying, we'll worry about it.
Right now, crime. Crime's the one. The crime's the focus. Yes.
And because there's been 30 years since the crime first started really getting out of control.
Yeah.
And we've just done nothing. It's just been left unchecked. It's so there's no. What do you do to bring that dog back in? And that's the problem. I think what we would need is a commissioner. I would want to hire somebody and just if I was mayor of Baltimore right now and I went up to the lectern, I'd find some guy. I'd find my pick. I'd be, magnanimous and open the doors and let people say things and,
because you want to get them approved.
Share people's feelings, share how we're doing in the search and stuff like that along the process. But then eventually I'd have my guy and I'm just, guy, but I'd have my guy right there.
Yeah,
probably
of course,
guy.
Of course it'd be a guy.
Probably man.
Yeah.
And he would be up there.
Also black guy.
Probably because I need to
Baltimore City.
I need to relate to the community.
Yes.
It's why would a black guy be related to the community? Anyway.
All right, Martin O'Malley.
And then I'd say to everyone who is listening, I would say, this is Jimmy, who's going to be our new police commissioner.
Not a real black name.
There's never a black guy named
I was
Jimmy.
really waiting for you to just come out with something black
blacker.
sounding and be like racist. Okay. Yes, it could be Jimmy, and Jimmy could be a black guy. You're absolutely right.
Not a single. There's Jimmy Smith on the Ravens. There, named one black Jimmy.
1, 2, 3. That's enough. You know how many black people named Jimmy you know.
This is Jimmy. He's our new police commissioner. I just want to let you all know ahead of time. I don't imagine that he's going to do a wonderful job of bringing down the crime right away. What he's going to do is fix it so that in 30 years, after we've had many years of fixing this problem, maybe then, possibly, fingers crossed, it will be better. But this is the guy who's going to get us in that direction. As opposed to this guy who is going to continue us in the opposite direction.
I feel like you would not be reelected as mayor.
Probably wouldn't. Nope. Take your medicine, mayors never are.
That's true. And you need a succession of them.
See, the problem, too, is that again, Catherine Pugh gets elected, and she's just like, all right, I can just keep doing everything the same. And maybe it'll be different for me than it was for the last 9 people who had this job.
I'm looking at the governor's mansion.
Maybe my force of personality will be the thing that will change everything in this town.
Have you seen me on a scooter? I'm really good on a scooter.
Listen, Martin O'Malley didn't really connect to the community like I did. I'm the one who can fix this problem, not Martin.
Yes.
Not Stephanie.
But Eddie. My point is, I'm all for Joel Fitzgerald. If he can fix the problem, if Pugh thinks he's the one that fixed the problem, great. Don't give him all the money up front. $100,000, way more than you need to live in the city of Baltimore.
Also, give that money to, if you're gonna pay somebody that much money, I feel like
overtime for the other police officers.
I feel like you could find the, for lack of a better term, the George Bush of police commissioners.
Sure, yeah.
Somebody who was just he was on the beat in New York City for 18 years in the 70s, and then he became the second in command in Los Angeles for.
The George H.W. Bush.
Yeah, a.
You said George W. Bush?
Oh, did I? I meant
yeah,
H.
and I was just like, wait, he did a lot of coke in the 80s, and now he's for some reason in politics.
Been let loose on. No, but
found Jesus, stopped drinking, stopped doing blow.
Find the guy with the impeccable resume.
Sure, yeah,
and then just be like, this guy was police commissioner in all these cities that have turned themselves around. We've opened up the purse strings to bring him in here because we desperately need his help.
Yeah.
This is the guy we're spending all that money on, not the guy who was fired from 4 jobs in 4 years.
And again, I could almost justify that. If he was for God help me, the George H.W. Bush of police commissioners, I can almost justify a higher pay. Because you're like, okay, maybe this guy, as opposed to all of the bats who came from Oakland after being there for a year, and this guy who's been in 4 different departments, or 3 departments in 4 years, that maybe the George H.W. Bush of police commissioners could get it done.
Yeah.
And I don't want him thinking, Well,
saying a guy like
offer's
that though,
coming
you
in.
got to pay. Like you get
Right, and I'm
somebody
fine with
with that
that.
incredible experience, you have to pay
Yes.
extra for.
And I also don't want him 1 or 2 years into the contract to start Dan Duquetting us and being like, "Oh, Toronto's looking for police. They pay pretty well up there, right? Yeah." And then not getting that job and then being bitter about it, not doing a good job in our city for the next 2 years. That's from now on. That's what we're gonna call Dan Duquetting. It's when you try to get another job, it gets shut down,
Trying to get a better gig,
and then you do a shitty job at your job for the rest of your contract just because. But yeah, I if that was the guy, I'm okay with it. Otherwise, let's give him the 100K and let's say, hey, when you hit certain milestones, that's when we're gonna pay you more.
Yeah.
Get murders under 300. Great. Get murders under 200. Get murders under 100.
We should probably just do that for everybody in the make the mayors pay dependent on murders. That'll change the murder rate, I imagine.
I think we would. Now let's get it off Miles scooted on Lime and onto murders stopped.
Murders stopped.
Yes.
We're going to give you, for right now, we're going to give you 300 murders. If you get under 300 murders, then for every murder under 300, we're going to give you a $20,000 bonus. For every murder over 300, you're losing $200,000 of the money you would otherwise have paid.
I don't mind that.
That'll be our barometer number.
I don't mind it.
As soon as we start getting down, like as soon as it's 250 consistently, then we'll move the benchmark a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
We'll give you a better base. But we'll move the benchmark to 250.
Down to 200. Maybe 150.
Yeah.
Maybe we can be per capita. I don't know. Middle of the road cities in the United States.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Per capita 20th like we are in population?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Yeah. I think that seems like an appropriate place to end.
Let's try to get there.
Well, if you're worried about being murdered in Baltimore, there's only one safe place you can go.
Where's that?
OTheAnthem.com. Corey to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. There ain't no murders on the internet. More,
I don't know. You're just not looking at the right place. I can show you some stuff.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to be involved in that future investigation into Rob.
We're on the same list.
For more of me, you can find me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendCB5 on Twitter and Instagram. Do you want to go see a movie tomorrow?
Yeah, we should.
Because we didn't get a chance to do it with the Thanksgiving and all this nonsense. So let's go see a movie.
Sure.
Creed 2, perhaps.
Oh, I'm down with that.
And then
depending on the time. Don't take me to no 10:30 movie.
Well, I mean, I'm probably not getting out until 7, so
that's probably when
we might have to rush to an 8 somewhere. Or
Yeah,
something like
that works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, you can find more of me at Robert and Cheek at all your social networks. Check out robertandcheek.com where you can find links to my political blog, news website, and the books which are available on Amazon.
Buy Rob's books. News coming soon.
New one's coming soon, hopefully. I guess we'll see. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. New one's coming soon. So we'll see. Also, I want to remind everybody, we still have an Amazon link on the OTheAnthem.com.
What?
And it's Christmas time, and you're going to be ordering presents. And why not click through the Amazon link? Costs you nothing. Helps the podcast. One time a year.
We don't make you listen to ZipRecruiter ads or any of these other stuff. The least you could do. You got to buy your sister a present.
Yeah.
She wants that thing on Amazon. She sent you a direct link in your email when you asked for Christmas ideas. So just go to our website, click through the Amazon link, go purchase that thing.
Yeah.
We get a little taste. It costs you nothing extra, and it helps us out significantly.
Yeah. So do it.
Yeah.
Stop being a bum.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
I don't know if I have anything. I was gonna hit you with some George Bush related compliment. It'll be like, you know what George Bush did really well, and just see you, motherfucker, for the last four minutes of the show.
Read my lips. Fuck George Bush. And I just wonder.